ask you some dirty questions, Colin.
I'm very pleased to welcome you to the first special event of our season.
Mr. Thomas is so distinguished a writer that I don't think he needs introduction. He's certainly the greatest living lyric English poet. But I think more important than that, one might be that on paper, Mr. Thomas is also a great reader of poetry. He is restored to the platform and to the stage, something that the Elizabethan theater had. And indeed, in that way, he's unique. Mr. Thomas, besides being a distinguished poet, has worked in the film. He does not look askance at, I guess, picking up a quick buck anywhere. But that isn't the point. The point is that wherever he has worked as a poet. And he has done commentary for films. Recently, just very recently in New York, has been published the first scenario that's ever been published for a film before the film was made. And I think that's of historical importance in many ways.
It's things of this sort that I believe occur in Mr. Moss's work, who has, I think, done that to a certain extent in the last film, Image in the Snow, where the development of the film is very largely horizontal. That is, there is a storyline, and this is illuminated constantly by the poetic commentary, so that you have two actions going on simultaneously. Now, this, I think, is one of the great potentials of film, and something that could very well be carried and developed much further. And I think this is one of the distinctions of that film, and also of Geography of the Body, is that it combines these principles. I think that, to my mind, I think that this gives a kind of way of handling poetry and film, and poetry in film, and I don't know how the other people feel about it.
Well, Mr. Thomas, being a poet, what do you feel about this?
Well, I'm sure that all that my Derrin said was what I would have said had I thought of it or understood it.
Does that mean they didn't understand it?
And then I was asked on the side whether that meant that I thought that the audience didn't understand what Miss Derrin was saying. I'm sure they did, and I wish I was down there. Perhaps it sounds different from that side, you know. You know, I'm all for. I'm in the wrong place, I think. But I'm all for horizontal and vertical and everything. And all for what we've heard about avant-garde. The only avant-garde play I saw, not this is off the point, but the only avant-garde play I saw in New York was in a cellar or a sewer or somewhere, and it happened to be with Mr. Miller over there, and we saw this play going on, and I'm sure it was fine, and in the middle he said, "Good God, this is avant-garde." He said, in a moment the hero's going to take his clothes off.
Did he?
He did.
All too good.
But I don't know. I mean, I haven't a theory to my back, as they say. But there are all through the films that I've seen all my life. There have always been bits that seem to me. Now this is a bit of poetry. They might have been in the in the UFA films or something that I saw as a child, just somebody coming down with some murderous, dark, silent street, apart from the piano playing. Or it might have been a little moment when Laurel and Hardy were failing to get a piano up or down a flight of stairs. But that always seemed to me the poetry, and the words. And when those moments came, well, I mean, I have to go a step beyond those UFA films now to the non-silent films. In the best of those moments, the words seemed to fit. They really were the right word, even though the right word might only have been a grunt. And I'm not at all sure how I'm not sure that anywhere I want such a thing as myself as a poetic film. I think films are fine as they are, if only they were better. And I'm not quite sure that I want a new kind of film at all. While I'm recharging an almost empty mind with an almost empty battery, perhaps Mr. Miller would say something.
Well, I don't think I'll let it go at that, Mr. Thomas. Surely, you must realize that the film is the popular medium, and you, more than anybody else, have tried to bring poetry to the public from the platform. Don't you think, as popular art, in a way that Elizabethan theater was a popular art, don't you think it would be possible in some way to weld poetry to the film? Do you think that it's just a verbal thing, that it would not be possible in the way that Elizabethan drama somehow welded dramaturgy to language, that it would be possible to weld language to the film?
Well, just as a poem comes out of one image makes another in the ordinary dialectic process. That's the sort of words I've been coming here for. We had enough, plenty of. Somebody had left out the word dialectic.
Well, you introduced it.
That had to come somewhere. Well, I may as well bring it in, you know. Well, just as as in a poem, one image breeds another. I think in a film, it's really the visual image that breeds the other one, and it breeds and breathes it. And if it's possible to combine a verbal image with a visual image, I think this sort of horizontal way. I'd rather see horizontal films myself. You know, I know all films come down like that, but I like stories. You know, I like to see something going on.
Well, then why don't you write stories? You have, and very interesting ones.
Well,
but you write poetry, and it could be possible.
Well, it's just rainy days.
The visual image and poetry could be welded in some manner.
I know.
As indeed you have written a scenario. And I've read that scenario, and I think it's terribly interesting. You may not have... do you think it has anything to do with poetry? I don't know.
I should think very, very little. He didn't even have enough to do with the commercial cinema for which it was written.
Well, as a poet and a dramatist, I would like to call on Mr. Thomas to do that.
First of all, anyway, first of all, always sounds as though one's got several other things to say, but I haven't really, because once I've spoken what I've first of all got to say, I haven't anything more to say, but... Well, starting at the alphabet from A to A, I think a symposium panel is the most curious, as you might notice, thing. We're only pretending to be now at our conversational ease. Though we seem to be saying what we think, we're only, of course, thinking towards what we're saying. But I think one of the troubles about this, if it is a trouble, is that we're talking about the poetic film, whatever that might be, as though it were a brand new thing, and we were the first people to be talking about it. The earliest film I ever saw was a poetic film. I don't know what it was. It might have been The Street or Atlantide or Metropolis. It was before the big cinema interests had got hold of the little cinemas, and so all sorts of films could be seen in small suburban cinemas in small provincial towns in far-off, unlikely countries like Wales. But those seem to me, in essence, to be poetical films. And now we're trying to split the poetry from the films again and separate them. I think there was a poetic cinema, there might be, but what too many of us, I'm not specifically saying people here, but also probably, or perhaps people in the audience, is that the avant-garde seems to be retrogressive. If that doesn't start someone talking, I don't know what to.
Well, what do you mean by avant-garde?
Well, it's a word that's been bandied around.
You see,
like
have you something to say, Mr. Thomas?
Well, only going back again to what I said at the beginning, if anyone has sufficient long memory. Was this, as it seemed to me, a terrible splitting up, which I'm sure Madame will talk about, the splitting up of these various elements. It's just like surrealists coming along and finding that in all surrealist paintings there was surrealism. They extract that element and then say, this is it. This is the whole of art, the whole of painting. That should have a semicolon, but I can't go. Maya.
After a semicolon, I can't follow a semicolon.
A horizontal colon.
I think Mr. Thomas speaks from a position that he has earned, and he says, why bother pulling it all apart if you can do it? Well, he can do it, and so he doesn't have to bother pulling it apart. It might interest him to pull it apart, and to pull it apart to a certain extent, more to clarify it for other people than to serve as a formula for creation. The distinctions which are attempted here are not formula. They're attempt to locate and have a general idea of what we're dealing with, so that we don't end up with the, well, it may be art, but I don't like it sort of thing, and if I like it, it must be art, which is actually where Mr. Thomas's point would point.
Well, mine might be, mine might be that it's art, but I don't like it.
Well, first place, Mr. Thomas, I just considered the subject. You must admit, if I may just take issue with you for an instant, that, say you're under the milkwood, which I consider a very beautiful and great achievement, would be different than in your language that you use than the ordinary language, wouldn't it?
Yes, certainly. It wasn't meant to be in the language of, of normal speech.
Exactly.
Just sort of with blood pressure.
I think that negates something Mr. Thomas says, that poetry before Mr. Thomas came on the scene was largely verbal. I mean, printed. People read it in books and so forth, and Mr. Thomas, by just his voice, just his talent, and just his genius at reading it, brought it to a very great public, Mr. Thomas, and I think that that could be extended in other ways. Don't you think so?
I like you, too. I don't know, so I was just lost in a haze of self-admiration at that moment. Just wondering who this was you were talking about.
Well,
but, no, I mean, nobody could be obviously more in agreement about a total man than a sort of mixed up little chap like myself, obviously. But I mean, what I really am interested myself in this is how are all these untotal people going to get to work together?
I suppose through love.
Well, that hasn't done much so far, I must say. But,
well, I disagree with you there. Very much.
Look
so.
where it's got people now. I don't know. I mean, it's still worth going on with, I suppose. But
I don't.
The evening I heard Mr. Thomas's play Under the Milkwood, I was struck by its visual imagery as well as its language. And at the time, some months ago, when I mulled over the play, I began to visualize it in a series of shots, images, mood, and I began to say, gosh, what a tremendous film this would make. Not with Betty Grable, but if Flaherty could make it, or if Mr. Thomas could make it himself. Now, as a play, the images you set forth were able to form in the audience's mind. As a film, you would set more specific visual images in front of the audience. Would you find it an advantage to have the, say, more limited audience your play has as a play, which can push forth into a group where they can form what they want from what you give them, or to get the larger audience that Mr. Miller spoke about earlier through a visual, technical medium with yourself at the helm?
Well, I'm all for having a much larger audience for that. The language in that was visual, and was meant to be, because you weren't seeing anything at all. It all had to be created in words, and those words could only be, if a film was going to be made of that play that you referred to, those words could really, apart from the dialogue, could only be in sort of camera instructions. They could directed in director's instructions.
Yes, I think that would be possible.
And that would be possible.
But you see,
and your other thing was, you know, with me doing it. Well,
that's right.
I'm open.
And then,
Any offer.
In my craft or sullen art, exercised in the still night, when only the moon rages, and the lovers lie abed with all their griefs in their arms, I labor by singing light, not for ambition or bread, or the strut and trade of charms on the ivory stages, but for the common wages of their most secret heart. Not for the proud men, apart from the raging moon, I write on these spindrift pages, nor for the towering dead with their nightingales and psalms, but for the lovers, their arms round the griefs of the ages, who pay no praise or wages, nor heed my craft or art.